Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, Human Rights Watch report accuses Nigerian security forces and government officials of sexual exploitation of female internally displaced persons in camps in the northeast. President Buhari orders the Inspector General of Police and sub-governors in the northeast to immediately begin investigation into the report by Human Rights Watch. EFCC arraigns former governor of Abia State, Mr. Orji Kalu, over alleged diversion of 3.2 billion naira from the state's treasury while he was governor. And Iraqi special forces advanced towards the outskirts of Mosul, set to enter into the city held by Islamic State fighters in a matter of hours.
On business news tonight, the federal government releases a new licensing regime policy for the oil and gas sector.
On sports news tonight, World Cup winning coach Joachim Low extends his contract with Germany, keeping him in charge until 2020.
I'm Gloria Umezuke, and from Abuja, more alleged gang leaders surrender their arms as they embrace River State government's amnesty program.
International human rights group the Human Rights Watch is accusing Nigerian security officials of raping and exploiting female internally displaced persons living in camps as a result of Boko Haram's insurgency. A report published by the group this morning is also accusing the government of not doing enough to protect affected women or punish the officials involved. The rights group states that it documented 43 cases of rape and exploitation of women and girls in several IDP camps in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, in late July. Also quoting a situational assessment of IDPs in the northeast in July by 2016 by NOI polls, the HRW states that 66% of 400 displaced people in Adamawa, Borno and Yobe states said the camp officials sexually abused the displaced women and girls. It also quotes a medical health worker in one of the camps who said the number of people requiring treatment for HIV and other sexually transmitted infections has risen from about 200 cases in 2014 to more than 500 in July 2016. President Muhammadu Buhari has been reacting to the report by the Human Rights Watch alleging abuse of female internally displaced persons in the northeast by Nigerian security forces. In a statement, the president says that he has instructed the Inspector General of Police and the state governors of the affected states to immediately begin investigations into the matter. The president explains that their findings will determine the next course of action for the government and define an appropriate response. He goes on to assure Nigerians and the international community that the allegations raised in the HRW reports are not being taken lightly. Well, joining me now on the news at 10 to throw more light on this developing issue is a senior researcher with the Nigeria Office of Human Rights Watch, Mausi Shegun. She joins us from our studios in Abuja. Thanks for joining us on the news at 10 tonight. What is the basis for this report by your organization?
If I can just backtrack a little, it was something that we came across in Maiduguri as far back as September 2015,
We had gone into IDP camps working on other issues, and in almost every camp that we walked into, individuals, including displaced people themselves, social workers, health workers will walk up to us and tell us about these cases that they came across. And in one of those cases, the man who spoke to us said, "I am a man and I am shocked that this is happening. Why don't you look into it?" Again, it was repeated in February. It was at that point that we realized that there might be a pattern and that the abuse was not about to stop anytime soon. And that is the reason why we went into Maiduguri again in July 2016, and we were there for 2 weeks, just checking with different camps what was going on with women and girls.
Is there an idea how long this sexual abuse has been going on, this sexual favors for aid and for food and for supplies? Any idea how long this has been going?
It's difficult to tell, but what we did find is that some of the women had children as old as 1 year old. This tells you, if you can extrapolate from that, a woman with a 1 year old child had been pregnant for 9 months, meaning that the abuse itself happened prior to that time. So if you look at, and then we saw others who had younger babies, we had some who were still pregnant, and some who, according to them, the rape or the sexual exploitation had happened just a month before, and they were not sure that they were pregnant or not. So within a 2-year period, it looks as if it had been going on systematically at different places at different times.
And some of these women have been infected by HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases, unfortunately, because of this abuse going on in the camps. When you brought this to the authorities, was there any sort of medical attention for the women who were affected?
We did write to the authorities as soon as we completed our research at the end of July. We presented a summary of our findings to the government. We eventually met with the Minister of the Women's Affairs Minister, and she did promise to investigate, because at that point what we were asking for was investigation, because we knew that the numbers that we were able to document were really a small fraction of the entirety of the problem. Until we had asked that they investigated as well. Don't take our word for it, go out there, investigate as well. We are aware that she did carry out some investigations to Maiduguri, to Adamawa, and to Yobe State as well. We don't know the outcome of the investigation, but that in itself is a first step. The fact that there were investigations, and as we heard today, the President himself has promised that there will be criminal investigations going on. So our point, and which is the point that you've raised, is that it goes beyond just criminal investigations. Those women, those girls need immediate medical and mental health, psychosocial support right now where they are. Many of them are traumatized. As a matter of fact, even those of us who spent time talking with many of them came out really traumatized ourselves.
I read that from the reports you posted on your website, but is this evidence that you have, is it enough to generalize that this is happening in all the IDP camps in Nigeria?
No, we definitely cannot say that it is happening in all the IDP camps in Nigeria. But what we do know is that in many of the camps in Maiduguri, there are 13 formal camps in Maiduguri. And I also must point out the fact that other institutions, including the UN, had released reports, assessments reports earlier in the year, as far back as April and May, alluding to the fact that these abuses were occurring and asking the government to act immediately. Obviously, nothing had changed by the time that we got in July. So we definitely know that it is happening in Maiduguri, where most of the people displaced by the Boko Haram conflict are resident. Whether they are occurring in other camps outside of Maiduguri or outside of Borno State, we do not know.
Human Rights Watch Officer Mausi Shagun, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10. In the meantime, the Nigerian Bar Association has inaugurated its task force committee for the Northeast and the Niger Delta. The NBA says this is to fulfill its responsibility for the promotion of public interest in the fight against corruption, reform of the judiciary, insurgency and reconstruction of the Northeast, and the resolution of the crisis in the Niger Delta. President of the NBA, Mr. Abubakar Mahmoud, who inaugurated the task force committees, said the idea to defend the rule of law and protect the fundamental rights and legal practice of its members, and indeed the rights of non-members in the two regions.
The legal profession has no doubt a crucial role to play in addressing security problems and the discharge of its public interest responsibility. The preamble of the UN Basic Principles on the Role of Lawyers could not have put it more succinctly when it refers to the important responsibilities that come with the legal profession. And that is, quote, to provide effective access to legal services to all persons and cooperating with government and other institutions in furthering the ends of justice and public interest, unquote. It's for the foregoing reasons that the NBA has decided to play a more active role in confronting the extreme troubling security challenges in the northeast of Nigeria as a result of the insurgency and escalating crisis in the Niger Delta, owing to the militancy in that region, with the devastating consequences on the national economy, but also on the communities in those regions. I consider it as part of our harder responsibility and remit of the bar to defend the rule of law and protect fundamental rights and legal practice of our members, and indeed the rights of other citizens.
Staying with legal matters, a former governor of Abia State, Mr. Orji Kalu, was today docked at the Federal High Court in Lagos to answer to allegations of corruption charges. Mr. Kalu is charged alongside his company, Slok Nigeria Limited, and his former Commissioner for Finance, Jones Ude Udogo. In one count, he is alleged to have utilized this company to retain in the account of the defunct First Inland Bank the sum of 200 million naira.
The former governor of Abia State, Orji Kalu, has had his day at the Federal High Court, Ikoyi, Lagos, alongside his former Commissioner for Finance, Jones Ude. He was arraigned by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, before the court on a 34-count charge bordering on money laundering. Upon arraignment, he pleaded not guilty to all counts. In an application before the court, counsel to the accused, Chief Mike Ozekome, requested that Justice Mohammed Idris allow the accused person continue with an earlier bail condition granted by a brother judge. With no opposition from the prosecuting counsel, Mr. Adeni Adebisi, Justice Idris granted the application and adjourned the case till December the 12th and 13th for trial. The accused were alleged to have diverted over 3.2 billion naira from Abia State's treasury during Mr. Kanu's tenure as governor between August 2001 and October 2005, which is against the provision of Section 15, subsection 6, 16 and 21 of the Money Laundering Prohibition Act of 2005. Victoria Ido, reporting for Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, more gang leaders surrendered their weapons in the River State Amnesty Program. Please join us again.